The Tolkien Road, Episode 49, The Silmarillion, Chapter 18, of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin.
Alright, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 The Tolkien Road.
The Tolkien Road.
The Tolkien Road.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through the works and philosophy of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode, we continue our discussion of the Silmarillion with Chapter 18, of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin, wherein Angband breaks loose upon Beleriand with incredible fury. There's a whole lot to discuss. By the way, if you haven't already, we'd really appreciate it if you left the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes. There's no better way to show that you care. Enjoy the show.
Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to the Tolkien Road, y'all. How's it going? It's Greta here, as always, with my co-host, John. How are you, John?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah?
Spiffy.
Spiffy.
Yeah.
That's a good word. That's a great
Yeah.
underused word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gonna ask me how I'm doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing...
I thought you already said you were doing okay.
Did I?
Maybe not.
Well, maybe I did, but I meant to use the word
Maybe that was
swell.
just when I came home from work earlier. You said you were doing okay, and I just
You just assumed that
Yeah.
just carried over till now?
and I was like, why would I ask you? You know, why would
Right,
I ask
why would I
you?
ask you more than once in one day
Right.
how you're doing?
Mhm.
Right, because nothing ever changes in my life, and of course it's 24 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, at this point in time, I'm swell.
You're swell.
Absolutely swell.
That's right.
And I'm super stoked to be here with you, talking about Tolkien,
Yes.
and a very exciting chapter.
Very, very exciting chapter.
in
Very
Silmarillion.
eventful chapter.
Yeah.
Epic, one might say.
Ooh.
You know,
Yeah.
not in the maybe not in the literary sense of the term, but in the kind of popular slang sort of way. It's a very epic chapter.
It is very epic. Yes.
Dude,
Yes.
that was epic. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like wicked epic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. Best not beat around the bush too
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
Do you have some music queued up, ready to go?
I do. Hopefully my phone here doesn't die in the middle of
Oh,
playing it.
that would be a travesty of all travesties.
Boom, 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 boom. I could just do the bass line myself.
You could. Here we go, guys. Get ready.
And then you could do the... Nice.
That's it. That is the most awesome haiku song ever
Nothing
written.
says time for a haiku like Tolkien haiku theme.
That is what I'm
Numero
saying.
dos.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I know you and I both have haikus. Do we have any from our super fans this week?
You know, I think we might have kind of messed up Josh's rhythm because you know we didn't record until later last week, so he probably doesn't think we're recording till later. So you know, I'll just put out the general announcement. We try to our goal is usually to record on the Monday night of a week. Sometimes we don't get around to it until Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Last week was just an anomaly because we had so many different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you want to get a haiku onto the podcast, you know, for this chapter this week, it's usually try to get us the haiku by Monday, you know, by Monday evening.
Okay.
And get it all ready to go. But so nothing from Josh. We did get something from Mary Grace. We got a lot from Mary Grace.
Oh, sweet.
But we usually wait on.
Yeah,
until
we do.
second. But you, I mean, did you?
I
wanna
just
flip
want
it
to be
up, or-
mentally prepared.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You just psych yourself up.
I did. Yeah.
Alright.
And I guess you and I need to play rock, paper, scissors.
Scissors, paper, rock.
No, rock, paper, scissors.
Scissors, paper, rock.
To see who goes first.
Okay.
You ready?
Scissors, paper.
Scissors,
rock, paper,
rock.
scissors, shoot.
Rock.
Y'all see what I have to put up with. Oh my
Scissors.
gosh. Are we starting again? Are we going to do it the right way?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ah! Dang it! You saw right through me. I knew you were going to do that. Like, I just didn't have enough time to change mine.
That game is all mental. It's all about being one step ahead. It's a battle of wits.
Mental.
It's a battle of wits. You know, in The Princess Bride, they should have played paper, rock, scissors. Instead of you know, the doing the iocane powder thing where, you know, he puts iocane powder in one of the...
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen the movie.
Yes, now I remember.
That just sounds silly to me, though, thinking that somebody hasn't seen The Princess Bride and it would spoil it for them, for me to reveal what happens, but...
Yeah, but you never know.
You never
Best
know.
to play it safe.
You never know.
Best to play it safe, yeah. So, you want to go first or second?
I will defer to the second half.
Alright. So I get first possession.
Yep.
Alright, here's my haiku. Oh, wait! We haven't even said what chapter we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. We're getting bad about that. We just start right in and we never even mention what chapter we're doing.
I know. We just like
Fortunately, I've got the intro where it says,
you have an intro,
and the episode is labeled, so...
Yeah.
But this is chapter 18 of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin.
So ominous sounding.
Yes. It's a pretty epic title. I mean, just all by itself.
Tolkien had a lot to live up to when he named the chapter that.
Yeah. So, you know, right off the bat, you know, it doesn't hide much. You know that Beleriand's going to get ruined, and Fingolfin's going to fall. He's going to fall and maybe, you know, split his knee open or something like that.
Break his nose.
Yeah.
Break his face.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to wipe some tears from his eyes.
Yeah.
Because falling hurts sometimes.
Falling does hurt. Falling stinks.
Everybody falls sometimes.
Everybody
and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Falls.
Yeah.
Yes. You're right. Especially in winter.
R.E.M. had a big hit with that song. Everybody falls. Everybody falls.
Is that what it is?
Sometimes. Yes.
I thought it was everybody hurts.
Well, it hurts after you fall. So it's implied in the title.
Okay, I didn't think that was the title. Okay.
Yeah,
yes, yeah. I see where you're going with it. I dig it.
Right.
All right, without further delay, here's my haiku for chapter, is it 18?
Chapter 18.
Chapter 18, okay. A fight to the death. Evil prevails. Glimpses of good. Alone solace.
That was a good haiku.
You like my dramatic pauses there?
That was that was kind of a purred happily haiku.
Or that dude from Parks and Rec.
That's purred happily. Yeah.
No, the other guy from Parks and Rec.
Okay, well if you're gonna say that dude from Parks and Rec, say that other guy from Parks and Rec.
That other guy.
Purred happily is from Parks and Rec.
What's his face's character?
Chris Pratt.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
No.
Andy Dwyer.
No.
Ron Swanson.
No. The happy, crazy, energetic guy.
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe's character. Yeah. Isn't that how we talked? Like that was the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, he kind of talks like that.
He did. So I was okay. I'll read it again without so many pauses. Maybe you'll appreciate it more this time. All right. A fight to the death. Evil prevails. Glimpses of good. Alone solace. Yep.
That was much better.
Thank you. I tried really hard. Thanks. Did you like it for real?
Yeah.
Okay. I was very limited. Like, I really felt the artistic energy welling up within me. But I was completely limited by the syllables. So I couldn't say nearly everything I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes it's okay to break out with a longer form poem if you want to. I mean, never stops Mary Grace, you know?
That's true, but the music is specifically for haikus, not for long form poems, so...
That's right.
All right. Your turn.
Okay. The piece ends in flame. Morgoth hath composed a symphony of hellfire.
One more time.
The piece ends in flame. Morgoth hath composed a symphony of hellfire.
I like that. I feel like that's kind of my life sometimes. A Symphony of Hellfire.
Symphony of Hellfire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Because you like to ride Harleys, right?
No, it's probably just 'cause I have a crazy life.
Hmm.
I have no desire to ride Harleys, actually.
Okay, fine.
But
Trying to provide you with a new hobby there. That
'Cause I
sounded
need
good to me.
I need one so badly.
All right, well, let me do. So Mary Grace sent us a few. Let's see here. Okay. I think I'll hold off on this one until next time because it's kind of more appropriate for episode 50. All right, so chapter 18 haiku from Mary Grace.
Mary Grace!
The Empire strikes back. The Noldor are scattered. I'm sorry, let me try that again. The Empire strikes back. The Noldor are scattered far. Oh, something happened. Something happened.
I like how she's, capitalizing on the Star Wars mania that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Even I, being the non-Star Wars fan that I am, can pick up on that. So
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Clever.
And then maybe these two are supposed to go there. Maybe it's supposed to be like a back-to-back haiku. Let's see here. Beleriand falls. So does Fingolfin. Peace is finally broken. There you go.
Very good. I dig it.
And then her long form. Here we go.
Ooh, a long form. Does this mean I can get out of discussing the chapter?
What? Oh no, it's not. It's not as long as a lot of her long form.
Foo. Okay.
Let me see. Actually, there's some words on this page too. Okay, it's kind of long. So maybe.
All right.
Beleriand has peace that has lasted so long, but at last old Morgoth has decided to sing his war song. One late winter night, flames poured into Thangorodrim, and Balrogs and dragons attacked the sons of Finarfin. It got much worse from there, but Fingolfin wanted to go out with a bang, so he made a great challenge, and Morgoth himself came. The duel was so fierce, but Morgoth struck the king down. No one spake it ere again for the loss of that crown. I have a bad printing job here. Okay, let's see. Some of the words look weird. Okay. Morgoth relentlessly fought, and the Noldor got beat, but to... sorry. Morgoth relentlessly fought, and the Noldor got beat. But to Tin he promised, "Fight with me, and I'll." This isn't working. The printer ate this other page, and so the printing is all weird.
Well, we can't have you butchering Mary Grace's.
I know. I want to do it justice. You know.
All right.
She put in the time and effort to make this.
Oh, I know.
So I want to make sure I get it
do
right.
it the right way, Carswell.
I am.
You better. Come on. We're all waiting. I have no idea how it's going to end. Cliffhanger. I don't like cliffhangers.
Okay. I'm gonna start from the beginning. All right.
Yes, please.
Beleriand has peace that has lasted so long, but at last old Morgoth has decided to sing his war song. One late winter night, flames poured into Thangorodrim, and Balrogs and dragons attacked the sons of Finarfin. It got much worse from there, but Fingolfin wanted to go out with a bang, so he made a great challenge, and Morgoth himself came. The duel was so fierce, but Morgoth struck the king down. No one spake it ere again for the loss of that crown. Morgoth relentlessly fought, and the Noldor got beat, but to men he promised, "Fight with me, and I'll treat." But the men they refused, so Morgoth fought them as well, and now a different part of this story I will tell. Húrin and Huor, sons of Galdor of Dorloman, came to Gondolin by eagle, and Turgon happily let them in. After a great stay, the sons wanted to go home. Turgon said that they may, but tell nothing of Gondolin. Some 7 years later, Morgoth attacks once again, but the Eldar, they win, and this is where the chapter ends. The going got really tough, so a poem I wrote, and now I truly shall end on that little note. Nice.
Awesome.
Well done again, as usual, Mary Grace.
Yes, very good. Very good. And
All right.
I think that pretty much concludes
Yeah.
our discussion on chapter 18.
Well, that's all. That's all she wrote, as they say.
Right? Yeah, I think
all she
that
wrote.
was a great summary. Thank you, Mary Grace.
Now it's a good poem, and now it's time to discuss.
All right.
All right.
If we must.
Okay. So chapter 18.
Chapter 18.
There's been, for some time now, there's been this thing going on called the Siege of Angband. And a
Right.
siege means that there's been some forces gathered around a fortress or a city,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't let anybody out of that fortress.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of keeping a watch on that fortress to ensure that, there's, it's a period of somewhat relative peace, not real peace, but, not lasting peace, obviously, but relative peace for the people who are not under siege.
Right.
You could say.
Right.
So, over time, things are they're getting used to having this peace. I think it says several hundred years, this siege of Angband has lasted now.
Mm-hmm.
And of everybody, Fingolfin, the High King of the Noldor, brother of Fëanor and Finarfin. Half-brother of Fëanor, brother of Finarfin.
Right.
And the High King of the Noldor, he starts getting a little antsy, and he starts to think that Morgoth has got to be planning something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Fingolfin wants to go and kind of preemptively strike.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, can't trust that Morgoth.
He must be proactive.
That's
I
right.
get that. Yeah.
He wants to take the war to him before Morgoth can unleash whatever he's got brewing down there.
Yep.
It says, this counsel was wise according to the measure of his knowledge, for the Noldor did not yet comprehend the fullness of the power of Morgoth, nor understand that their unaided war upon him was without final hope, whether they hasted or delayed. But most of the Noldor were content with things as they were, trusting them to last, and slow to begin an assault in which many must surely perish, were it in victory or in defeat.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore they were little disposed to hearken to Fingolfin and the sons of Fëanor at that time, least of all. So, try as he might, Fingolfin can't convince anybody that it's time to take the battle to Morgoth.
Right.
Unfortunately for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just so turns out that he's right, that Morgoth is up to something.
Yep.
By the way, men, it says, have been, they're kind of 6 generations into men after Beor and Marach, right? The first leaders of men that came over the Blue Mountains into Beleriand. So that tells you, there we go. It being then 400 years and 5 and 50 since the coming of Fingolfin. So that's 455 years since basically Fingolfin and the rest of the Noldor came over from the Blessed Realm, right? Made their journey over from the Blessed Realm.
Yep.
Morgoth had long prepared his force in secret, while ever the malice of his heart grew greater, and his hatred of the Noldor more bitter. And he desired not only to end his foes, but to destroy also and defile the lands that they had taken and made fair. And it is said that his hate overcame his counsel, so that if he had but endured to wait longer, until his designs were full, then the Noldor would have perished utterly. But on his part he esteemed too lightly the valor of the elves, and of men he took yet no account. So that's kind of setting the stage, and then all of a sudden, boom. Yeah.
Jinx.
Boom.
Yeah. He strikes.
Yeah.
When they least expect it.
Suddenly Morgoth sent forth great rivers of flame that ran down swifter than Balrogs from Thangorodrim, and poured over all the plain. And the mountains of iron belched forth fires of many poisonous hues, and the fume of them stank upon the air and was deadly. Thus Ardgallan perished, and fire devoured its grasses, and it became a burned and desolate waste, full of a choking dust, barren and lifeless. And at the head of this all, so they call it the Battle of Sudden Flame. It's known as Dagor Bragolach, right? The Battle of Sudden Flame. And at the head of this, at the front of the fire, came Glaurung the Golden. Do you remember? So we saw Glaurung several chapters ago, and he was just kind of a little...
Oh, right, he was a
wee dragon lad at that point.
Right. And he escaped without his master's permission.
Right.
But now he's full grown.
Yes, he is. And Father of Dragons, and he is in full might and a terror. And he comes leading Balrogs into battle. And then huge armies of orcs, and they pretty much just overwhelm the forces of the Noldor, right? Of the people of Beleriand.
Right. Yes.
And it says, "War cease not wholly ever again in Beleriand." So the siege of Angband is over. Things go really poorly for.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
If they were watching, like the siege of Angband was happening, right? So they were keeping an eye on Angband.
Right.
How did Morgoth manage to mount this attack? Like, how could they not have known he was going to do this if they were watching his fortress?
Well, Morgoth, like Angband, right, and Thangor. I mean, Morgoth's fortress was delved way into the earth, right, like way down and underground. Like, so it talks about in other chapters how he basically built this huge underground fortress, right, and where he could also construct new weapons of war and train armies and all this kind of stuff. So just because there's this, they basically were camped out on this plain in front of the entrance to Angband, right, and that's where that's kind of as far as they knew what he was doing, right? So you think about it, when a siege happens, no one knows what's going on inside the fortress. You know, in ancient times when the siege happened, no one really knew what was going on unless you had spies inside that could tell you.
I see what you're saying. But I mean, how did he get out, though? He had more than one.
What do you mean, how did he get out?
Well, how did he get out of his fortress? Like, how did he mount this attack? Because weren't they watching?
Well, it was so fast. That's the thing, right? It's the speed of it. That's the key, right?
Okay.
Yeah, if they just sent out like a couple of orcs at a time, then they would have been like, oh, something's happening, and then they would have had time.
It was like a blitzkrieg.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's one of the principles of warfare is speed, right? Yeah, it's like blitzkrieg, right? In World War II, the German armies used that quite a bit, right? Same thing with the Japanese when they attacked Pearl Harbor, right? Surprise attack, and nobody's ready, right?
And then you're out before they realize what's happened.
The people of Poland knew that Germany was out to get them, but Germany was just, the German armies were just so quick to overwhelm that there was nothing they could do about it. And the same thing happened with France and England when Germany invaded France, right?
Yep.
It was just too quick and unexpected. At least it wasn't completely unexpected, but it was too quick to respond to in a fashion that could allow them to defend successfully. Yeah. And the same thing with like Pearl Harbor, right? It was they knew that the Japanese were eyeing further expansion on a strategic level, but Japanese attacked on a Sunday morning when everybody was at church and no one, even though it might happen, you never really expect it to happen. You never really think it's actually going to happen until it happens. Yeah, that's true. It's kind of weird how that works in our minds. There's always
kind of justified away.
I mean, it's a really interesting. It's a great question because, and thank you for asking it, because I was trying to think of how to, talk about the fact that Fingolfin basically wanted to launch this preemptive war against Morgoth here, and not really that he would have been starting a war, because there was still a war going on. It was just kind of a tranquil moment in that war, but. A lot of times there'll be somebody like that who's like, we really got to be more prepared than we are right now. And we all think that just because he hasn't attacked us in a while, that he's never going to attack us again.
Well, you get lazy.
You get complacent,
right? You let your guard down.
Exactly. Yeah,
I guess that's what happened here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the battle of Sudden Flame. And it says, the sons of Finarfin bore most heavily the brunt of the assault, and Angrod and Ignor. Angrod and Ignor were slain. Yep. So Finarfin has five children, and 2 of them are slain here. His other 3 are, of course, Finrod, or Oradreth, and Galadriel. And Ignor and Angrod are slain. And then there's others. Bregalad, the Lord of the House of Beor. But interestingly enough, this is significant for the following chapter. Barahir, who is the brother of Bregalas, so a man, right? One of the Yadain.
Mm-hmm.
Barahir comes to the aid of Finrod Felagund, right? When Finrod is surrounded, Barahir does something very brave. It says, Finrod would have been slain or taken, but Barahir came up with the bravest of his men and rescued him and made a wall of spears about him, and they cut their way out of the battle with great loss. Thus Felagund escaped, and returned to his deep fortress of Nargothrond. But he swore an oath of abiding friendship and aid in every need to Barahir and all his kin, and in token of his vow he gave to Barahir his ring. Barahir was now by right the lord of the house of Beor, and he returned to Dorthonion, but most of his people fled from their homes and took refuge in the fastness of Hithlum. So, very short little blurb about that, but significant in that Barahir is the father of Beren, right? And who we'll obviously learn a whole bunch about in the next chapter of Beren and Luthien.
Right.
And that oath, that recognition of what Finrod's recognition of what Barahir did for him is significant in that chapter.
Okay.
So and there's a whole lot of detail in this chapter, and so I'm gonna jump, kind of maybe jump over some stuff that others may deem significant enough to stop on, but there's just a lot to get to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think I jump over something that you'd like to talk about, let me know.
Okay.
So the battle ends. It's pretty much an overwhelming victory for Morgoth, and he starts pushing back on all of the forces of the Noldor. It does mention that Medros did you know what? Hold on. Am I saying Medros' name right? Because Maiglin, we decided, was is in Ignor near Nyath, and maybe it's supposed to be Mithros. I think it's supposed to be Mithros.
Have we talked about him before?
Huh?
Have we talked about him before?
Yeah, Mithros is the eldest son of Feanor.
So
right,
yeah,
he's the one that got
right.
he's the one that got hung from the sheer face
that's
of.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it is what'd you say?
Mithros.
Mithros. Yeah, that's right.
Before I called him Medros. Now I feel like a dummy. But
well, you should.
Figuring out all this weird pronunciation by Tolkien. I'm not a linguist myself, It's just weird for me.
And don't feel like a doofus. Just do your best. Let go.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Mithros. What?
Mithros.
Yeah.
Mithros, I'll just say Mithros did deeds of surpassing valor, and he kind of lets loose, even though it's a losing cause. He lets loose, a bunch of hurt onto the orcs.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to mention that. And it's, there's,
he doesn't die though, right?
No, he doesn't die. It basically said his spirit burned like a white fire within, since his torment upon Thangorodrim.
Okay.
And he was as one that returns from the dead, which is just kind of a.
That's
cool
creepy,
word.
yo.
Yeah.
Like that seems to me like a zombie.
Well, no, I think it's more he's just saying like he's like waking up. It's like he used to be this great warrior, and here he is waking up from almost like a long slumber.
I see. Okay.
Awakening
like
from a long slumber.
He's rediscovering himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mithros was the one who was supposed to. He really should have been the High King of the Noldor after Feanor died, right? Because it should pass down to the eldest.
But it went to his brother.
Son, right? Through the eldest son's line. But because of Fingon, who is one of the sons of Fingolfin, and rescuing his deed of bravery to rescue Mithros, it was given over to Fingolfin.
That's right.
To Fingolfin's line.
Right.
All right, so we have Mithros' deeds of valor. And then finally, Fingolfin is just like, sees all of the sons of Fëanor driven from their lands, the sons of Finarfin overthrown, and Fingolfin has just had enough, and he goes up to the door of Angband and just starts beating upon it and telling Morgoth that he better get out there and fight him. Mm-hmm. Thus he came alone to Angband's gates, and he sounded his horn and smote once more upon the brazen doors and challenged Morgoth to come forth to single combat. And Morgoth came. This is a really cool scene. You called this out when we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you asked if I had a picture. I do have one. Hopefully, my phone doesn't die.
I love the descriptions of it.
Yeah. What did you like about them?
Well, it was just so like how they described Morgoth. This is probably my favorite passage. It says, "Therefore, Morgoth came, climbing slowly from his subterranean throne, and the rumor of his feet was like thunder underground. And he issued forth, clad in black armor, and he stood before the king like a tower, iron-crowned, and his vast shield, sable emblazoned, cast a shadow over him like a storm cloud. But Fingolfin gleamed beneath it as a star, for his mail was overlaid with silver, and his blue shield was set with crystals, and he drew his sword Ringel, or, am I saying that right? Ringil?
Let's see. I think it would be Ringil.
And he drew his sword Ringil, that glittered like ice." I don't know, I just loved the imagery. Like it was just Huh?
Can you have your phone? Hey, my phone's about to die, so I'm
okay.
it up.
I just love the imagery because it just seems like such a stark contrast, right? I mean, it talks about Morgoth, coming up from underground, right? Being all clad in black and iron, and sounds like thunder, and he has a storm cloud over him. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, just dark and dooming, and that's not a word, is it? Dooming?
Booming? Or
I wanted to say like doom, like
doomish,
imposing doom, right?
Yeah.
Scary, right? Like just completely frightening, and like the worst bad guy that exists.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you have Fingolfin, who's like a star, beaming like a star, right? Covered in silver. He has a blue shield with crystals, and his sword is like ice. I love the nature, like the way that he brought in, he talks about storm clouds and thunder, right? And then he talks about ice and stars. Like it just seemed like just your classic clash of good versus evil.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you asked about seeing if there was any art that I know of, and that's a pretty cool one right there.
Oh, wow.
That's by, what is it, Mentosic?
Yeah, Mentosic 8.
Mentosic 8 on Deviant Art, which, who would know that there's more than one Mentosic out there, but...
Dude, that's creepy.
Yeah. Well, what kind of makes it creepy is I realized, because his helmet looks kind of like, almost like some kind of like, like it has multiple eyes or something like that.
Yes,
But you know what it is? The 3 Silmarils.
Oh,
it's the 3 Silmarils in his Iron Crown, right?
Yes.
But yeah, you gotta hand it to Fingolfin. It takes a whole lot of courage to challenge one of the Valar, basically, right?
What I thought was interesting though is when they were talking about Morgoth is that they said, I think it's in this, maybe it's not in this part, but they talked about him as, even though he was the greatest of all the Valar, he was the most powerful. Mm-hmm. He was also the only one who knew fear.
Yeah. Interesting.
I thought that
was
that
in
really
here?
interesting. I don't know if it's that here. I know it was somewhere in the chapter. I thought it was in his battle with Fingolfin, but maybe it was somewhere else.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's so much detail in this chapter. It was kind of hard to sort through it all.
Yeah.
Where is that? Did you underline it?
I didn't underline it. I should have. But I didn't.
Well, it did. Okay, so it says, he wounded Morgoth with 7 wounds, and 7 times Morgoth gave a cry of anguish whereat the hosts of Angband fell upon their faces in dismay, and the cries echoed in the Northlands. Of course, at that point, Morgoth kind of redoubles and regroups and wins the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately,
I thought it was interesting too, where he talked when they used the, you think about the significance of the number 6.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, I found it.
Did you find it?
Go back to 153. It says in the bottom paragraph, that was the last time in those wars that Morgoth passed the doors of his stronghold. And it is said that he took not the challenge willingly.
Yes.
For though his might was greatest of all things in the world, alone of the Valar he knew fear.
Yeah.
But he could not deny it. So basically, Fingolfin calls him a wuss. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, this guy called me a wuss. I can't let him call me a wuss and then not challenge him, right?
Right.
And Lord of Slaves, right?
Right, yeah.
So
Fingolfin basically totally disses him.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I can't stand for this.
Yeah, which you kind of think about it, it's like, really like you're just sitting back there, sitting pretty. It's kind of incredible how little fighting Morgoth does for himself in the course.
Yeah, he has all his little minions that do it for him.
Yeah, as powerful a being as he, obviously is.
Yeah.
When I was going to say something else. Yeah, I mean, why do you think it was that he was the only one who knew fear?
Well, I think it was because he was fallen.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the other Valar are still as they were meant to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were created, as Ea created them.
Right.
Or not Ea. What's his name?
Iluvatar.
And they were as the Iluvatar meant them to be.
Yeah.
And so they're essentially still perfect, right? They're sinless. They're still a perfect image of him. Whereas Morgoth, is the fallen one. So I think fear, at its root is really the result of sin. It's the result of the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you haven't fallen, if you're still, in essence, who you're meant to be, right? If you're still that image of Iluvatar, then you have nothing to fear. But obviously Morgoth messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. That kind of makes sense to me, what you said. I don't know. Why would he alone be fearful of all the Valar? I don't know. Maybe it's because he knows that his days are numbered because he did rebel against Iluvatar, and so maybe there's some sense within him that even though that it is all going to come crashing down eventually for him, that he is going to pay eventually going to pay for his misdeeds.
Right. You have to make restitution. Yeah.
Yeah. That there is going to be the justice of Iluvatar is going to come upon him eventually, and he doesn't know who's going to be the bearer of that, right?
Yeah.
It could be Fingolfin for all he knows, and he sets out to this battle, right?
That's true. He doesn't know.
So, yeah, that's interesting. I think you're right, and I think it's just a realization. It's a realization that one is not just done evil to lesser beings, but done evil to the greatest. Done evil to the greatest being, right? To the being that made you, and that that knows every detail about you, and that can be completely undo you. You know.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
So the battle, Morgoth gets, Fingolfin beats him up pretty well, actually.
Did you think there was any significance to the numbers he used here? Because he says that Fingolfin wounded Morgoth with 7 wounds, and 7 times Morgoth gave a cry of anguish. Mm-hmm. Right? You think of 7, especially in biblical, like in the Bible, it's kind of the number of completion, right? The perfect number.
Well, yeah, we definitely see it as symbolic, and having it paired, having it spelled out, 7 wounds and 7 times a cry of anguish. It definitely seems like there's some kind of significance to that number. It does.
And then it talks about 3, right, with Fingolfin.
Yeah.
He's wounded 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Thrice arose again.
I might I'm just speculating, but my thought is that maybe it has to do with the 7 sons of Feanor. That's the only place I can really think of is the number 7 coming up. You know, within Tolkien's mythology. Okay. Yeah. And then
that was interesting that you chose those 2 numbers.
Yeah, I mean 3 is there's 3 Silmarils.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I don't really know. That's good. Interesting question.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't by chance, but
probably not.
Yeah.
It says so. Fingolfin hewed the foot of Morgoth with Ringo, and the blood gushed forth black and smoking and filled the pits of Grond. But Fingolfin dies.
Yeah.
So valiant battle. Morgoth is just basically breaks his body and is going to throw him to the wolves. But then Thorondor the eagle comes, and messes up Morgoth a little more, and is able to obtain Fingolfin's body and goes and buries it near Gondolin.
Right.
Drops it off near Gondolin, and Turgon is able to bury it. It says that Morgoth was ever halt of 1 foot after that day, and the pain of his wounds could not be healed, and in his face was the scar that Thorondor made. So again, we've seen this in a lot of chapters, but every time Morgoth does something, he gets weaker and weak. Every time he launches an assault, basically he gets weaker and weaker. His powers are dissipating. Yeah. And so Fingon, the eldest son of Fingolfin, takes the leadership of the Noldor. He's the new High King of the Noldor. All right, I think any other thoughts before we take a quick commercial break?
No, not that I can think of.
All right. Okay, we shall return shortly.
Don't go away. Hey, Tolkien Roadsters. What's shaking? Greta Carswell here, just getting my groove on to the Tolkien Haiku theme music. Man, that's an awesome song. You know what else is awesome? Feedback on the Tolkien Road on iTunes. Oh yeah, you heard me right. iTunes feedback is one of the best ways you can tell the world about your undying love for this podcast. Because it lets those knuckleheads at Apple know that the Tolkien Road is where it's at. I mean, come on. Why didn't they know that already? Am I right? So next time you're waiting in line to pick up some delicious tacos, surfing the World Wide Web, brushing up on a Tom Bombadil factoid, or keeping it real in whatever way you keep it real, pop on over to iTunes and let the human race know what you think about the Tolkien Road. We're all dying to know, for reals. Party on, y'all!
All right. So Fingon is now the High King of the Noldor. Fingolfin is dead. Morgoth has been greatly wounded, but things are looking pretty bleak for the Noldor overall. I will mention briefly, because the name comes up in the Lord of the Rings, that Gil-galad, the son of Fingon, is mentioned in so it says that Fingon sends him to the Havens, which are basically it's on the coast of Beleriand, right?
Yeah.
Looking out towards this, the sea across which is Valinor, the Blessed Realm. Gil-galad's kind of an interesting figure. There's not a lot that's known about him, but he kind of comes up in a poem that Sam, and I think we might have actually read it in one of our Lord of the Rings episodes we've already done.
Okay.
The poem about Gil-galad. But anyway, that's who Gil-galad is. He's the son of Fingon, right, and the grandson of Fingolfin. All right. And so with the Noldor now being pretty hard pressed, the men who were serving the Noldor are also feeling, starting to feel some of these effects. And in particular, the House of Beor, now ruled by Barahir, really starts to take a lot of hits. They just, they're pretty much whittled down to just a handful of folks. It speaks a little bit about Imeldir, the man-hearted Barahir's wife.
Okay, can I just point out how funny I think that is?
Yeah. That
his wife's name is the man-hearted.
Yeah.
I read that 3 times. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah. I know it is a little.
So she's a pretty tough chick then, I guess.
Yeah.
She's man-hearted.
Man-hearted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's kind of like what's her face? What was the one that started with an H who led her people out?
Oh, Haleth.
Haleth, yeah. She's just kind of like a warrior girl.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it is kind of a funny name.
Yeah.
So, only a small band of outlaws survive from this group of the House of Beor, led by Barahir, and again significant because
he's Baron's dad.
It's Baron's dad, and it also that group is kind of where the story of Baron and Luthien starts in the next chapter.
Okay.
Next break, we go and we hit the assault upon Minas Tirith. Now, do you remember how Minas Tirith fits into the Lord of the Rings?
I don't.
Okay, it's really interesting. So Minas Tirith is the name of the city in Return of the King, basically. That is kind of it's almost like the where most of the action or a lot of the action in Return of the King takes place, right?
Okay.
But it's not this Minas Tirith. It's a new Minas Tirith that is a later tower, right?
Right.
But interestingly enough, they both look out. They're both basically kind of frontier lookouts over the realms of the adversaries in those particular time periods, right?
Okay.
So and I didn't look this up. I should have. Minas Tirith means. It means Tower of Watch, right? Tower of Watch. So it's the Watchtower, right?
Appropriate, yeah.
Yeah. And again, what's interesting is that, like in Lord of the Rings, Minas Tirith is the Watchtower upon Sauron. Well, guess who's assaulting Minas Tirith here? Sauron, right? Even though it's an earlier Minas Tirith. So if you go back, history repeats. History almost literally repeats itself here. If you go over to the map in the very back, just so you know where the action is taking place here. So up here is where that Battle of Sudden Flame took place up in the Onfalglith, up in the middle north.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That's basically where the siege forces were, and now they all got pushed back out of there, and then Morgoth is starting to attack Hithlum, this area over here, right, where a lot of the Noldor lived, and as part of that, he is attacking this little pass here, okay, which is, if you look there, that's where Tol Sirion is, which is the island that Minas Tirith is on. So Minas Tirith was a watchtower built there to look out over Angband in the realm of Morgoth.
Okay.
All right. So that's where the next little bit is taking place here.
Okay.
So Sauron, when we first heard about him, he was just kind of remember he's a Maiar who's corrupted by Morgoth, also known as Gorthar the Cruel. And he comes up and attacks Minas Tirith with his forces, and Sauron has gotten to be a pretty bad dude. He's pretty powerful, and they're not really able to stand up against him. And so Sauron overtakes it, and it becomes then thereafter the Isle of Werewolves.
I don't think I want to go to there.
Yeah, don't want to go to there.
No.
Yeah. So he took Minas Tirith by assault, for a dark cloud of fear fell upon those that defended it, and Orodreth was driven out and fled to Nargothrond. Then Sauron made it into a watchtower from Morgoth, a stronghold of evil and a menace. And the fair isle of Tol Sirion became accursed, and it was called Tol in Galroth, the Isle of Werewolves. No living creature could pass through the veil that Sauron did not espy from the tower where he sat. And Morgoth held now the western pass, and his terror filled the fields and woods of Beleriand. So with capturing this, it's like Morgoth isn't just confined to that area that he pushed the forces back up there. Now his forces can make it out into the rest of Beleriand, right?
Yes.
So this is very bad news. Because you kind of look at that strategically. There's mountains on either side. It's kind of hard to imagine any way to get into the rest of Beleriand, but through that little narrow passage, they can go anywhere after that, right?
Yeah.
So, bad news.
Very bad news.
Yeah. So you had a bad day. Take Oh gosh,
Yes.
sorry. I'm really
You
sorry.
should be sorry.
That
That was completely uncalled for.
we're just gonna stop the episode here.
I think so. I think you ruined
I
it.
think we're done.
I think everybody's turned it off already anyway.
Probably.
So we're just talking to ourselves.
What's that supposed to mean?
You know exactly what it's supposed to mean.
What?
You know. People turned it off
Why?
because you started singing that song.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying people had turned it off before you even started singing that
Oh
song.
no, they heard the first note and then turned it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Gotcha.
come back, please.
Okay.
Right, let's start again.
You want me to sing the song again? Is
No.
that what you're saying?
No, I want to start a discussion again.
Okay, well, moving on, page 158. I feel like I'm skipping over a bunch of stuff here, but
That's okay.
it's just kind of stuff about the men, and a lot of it's hard to wrap your head around all the different men at this point because we just don't know them that well
Yeah,
yet.
it gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, so again, there's probably some good stuff in there, but trying to hit the high points.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about some more men, and they are Húrin and Huor, right?
Oh, yeah.
Húrin and Huor on page 158. Very significant figures, again, especially because of who their sons are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually a chapter, one of the chapters in the book is about Turin, who is the son of Húrin, and then one of the chapters is about Tuor, who is the son of Huor, right?
That's not at all confusing.
Well,
why are you going to give your
at least it's
kid a
alphabetical
name?
order.
Well, it is, but it's rhymes, so
Yeah.
it's very confusing.
Yeah.
It's like they belong in a Dr. Seuss book.
Húrin and Turin, yeah.
Húrin and Turin.
Or on DuckTales, Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
No. Dr. Seuss would be better.
Okay.
But anyway, who are they? This part kind of.
They are the sons of Galdor of Dor Lomin.
Okay.
And they eventually find their way to Gondolin.
Which was hidden.
Right.
And the only reason they found it is because of the eagle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they wind up in a battle, and Thorondor, and it doesn't go well for most of the men, and Thorondor espies them, and he sent 2 of his eagles to their aid, and the eagles bore them up and brought them beyond the encircling mountains to the secret vale of Tumlad and this hidden city of Gondolin, where no man yet had seen. Right?
Yeah.
So Húrin and Huor are the first 2 men to venture into Gondolin.
Okay.
So Torgon receives them, and he had kind of had wind that they were going to be coming from Ulmo.
Right.
And they stay with him for about a year. But even as wonderful as Gondolin is, and a respite from the hell that is fastly becoming the rest of Beleriand, right?
Mm-hmm.
They decide that they need to go back to their homes and their houses and find out where they're needed after a year.
Right.
But what's the big problem?
Well, they're not really supposed to leave
Yeah.
because they don't want Gondolin discovered.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gondolin is supposed to be a secret, and so they're not really supposed to leave. And so Torgon doesn't like the idea at first. Of course, he also wants to keep them because he loves them, right? It says
Right,
he,
yeah, it says that, yes.
he wanted to keep them in Gondolin out of love.
Right.
Húrin and Huor desired to return to their own people and share in the wars and griefs that now beset them. And Húrin said to Torgon, Lord, we are but mortal men and unlike the Eldar. They may endure for long years, awaiting battle with their enemies in some far distant day, but for us the time is short and our hope and strength soon wither. Moreover, we did not find the road to Gondolin, and indeed we do not know surely where the city stands. So they basically say, hey, we didn't find our way here. We got dropped off. Right? So we don't know the way.
Does it even say like their eyes were shaded? Like not only did they fly, but it says that their eyes were covered, right? Like they couldn't even have seen if they wanted to.
I think that might be when they're leaving.
It says, yeah, and in mercy our eyes were veiled.
Oh, okay, yes, you're right. There you go.
Yeah.
Good call.
Thanks.
So, Miglin comes up again. Miglin says to Húrin, "The king's grace is greater than you know, and the laws become less stern than aforetime, or else no choice would be given you but to abide here to your life's end." To which Húrin says, "The king's grace is great indeed, but if our word is not enough, then we will swear oaths to you." And so, it's interesting that Miglin does that, and we'll see why, in later chapters. But Miglin, is kind of this quiet, shadowy figure within Gondolin, and he's the one that there just seems to be a darkness in him, and he seems to be, I think the reason this is mentioned here is it's trying to say that even now Miglin is kind of plotting something. He's trying to work something out, work a design out of his own.
But what would be in that for him?
Well, you'll see. You'll see later on.
Okay.
So they finally find their way back to Galdor, to their father Galdor, and they're not allowed to say where they were.
Right.
But basically everybody figures it out because everybody knows that Gondolin exists. They just don't know how to get there, and they're all like, "Oh, well, then you were probably there in Gondolin."
Because you're not allowed to say where you were, so that's probably where you were.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Turgon does not allow any of his people to issue forth to war because, again, he kind of wants to keep Gondolin in this little isolated place. And Turgon seems to be of the opposite mind of Fingolfin, whereas Fingolfin was always like, wanted to take the war to Morgoth. Turgon is like, we're kind of happy where we are. We don't want to go out and get into any of this trouble that's going on out there and bring death and destruction upon Gondolin. However, he does, interestingly enough, send some people down the river, the great river Sirion, to the Isle of Balar. So if you look again at your map, look down here. This is the Isle of Balar.
Yep.
Right? So basically, he sends some of his people from up here where Gondolin is. He sends some of his people down this great river all the way to the Isle of Balar, where they are, they're pretty far away from Morgoth's forces, and their job is to build ships and try and find a way back to Valinor. Try to
help to entreat the help of the Valar.
Exactly. Basically to repent and ask for the help of the Valar. To ask for pardon and the aid of the Valar. But they are unsuccessful.
Right.
They are unsuccessful. Morgoth catches wind of the different things that are going on, and he's not happy about how things are going. But overall, really, this was a pretty successful stroke for Morgoth. I mean, he caused a lot of death and destruction, and he's no longer under siege within Angband. So, yeah, things are looking ugly for the peoples of Beleriand, and things are looking up for Morgoth.
So is there one more battle here that it talks about at the end? Wait, it says when 7 years had passed since the fourth.
No, this was the fourth battle.
Okay, that was the fourth battle.
So yeah, the battles so far were, the first one was before the Noldor even arrived, right? It was when Morgoth came back and then he fought the Sindar. That was the first battle, and then the second battle was, I think when the Noldor arrived, and fought with Morgoth. I think that was the second battle. The third battle, what was the third battle? I think the third battle might have been kind of on the heels of that one.
Okay.
The third battle may have been the one where Glaurung broke forth.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
So the fourth battle is a pretty big win for Morgoth.
For Morgoth, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, all of these forces of Beleriand that were once united against Morgoth are now like scattered all about Beleriand, and,
Right.
and many have died, and and in particular, who comes into focus is the band of brothers around Barahir, right? Who are kind of outlaws. I mean, they're not even enough for them to be considered an army. They're just kind of outlaws, living off the land.
Now, what house were they a part of?
They're of the House of Beor.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, the House of Beor.
Okay.
So, come back here to
Oh yeah, handy dandy.
table 3.
Tree.
Table 3, and then you can see. You can see him there. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the very end, it kind of gives a nice little transition
Yep.
to what the next chapter is about.
Mm-hmm. Chapter 19 of Barahir and Luthien.
Mm-hmm. So Baron's the only one of those outlaws that survives.
Well, we'll know when we get to the next chapter, right?
Yeah, it says here.
We'll know when we get to the next chapter!
No, but that
I'm just
last
kidding.
sentence.
You're right.
In that time also, the outlaws of Dorthonion were destroyed, as is told hereafter.
Yeah, you're right.
And Baron, son of Barahir, alone,
You're right.
escaping.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Awesome. Man, I wish I had my tape recorder going.
Good thing we got it. Good thing
Oh,
we're
yeah,
recording
we
a
did have a
podcast.
recording. Woohoo! Alright, well, I'm pretty stoked about the next chapter.
Yeah. So next episode 50. I was, I was thinking I would do something.
That's pretty awesome that of Baron and Luthien is episode 50.
I know. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was, because I was thinking about trying to do like something special. Like do a letter, or at some point I was thinking about doing an interview. And yeah, we'll get around to doing more interviews. I know I've been saying that for like 20 or 30 episodes now, but I've just been busy with so much other stuff. It's hard to arrange the interviews if we want to.
Yeah.
We'll get around to doing those. And we will do at least one this year, hopefully more. But yeah, I think it's cool that Baron and Luthien is going to be episode number 50. And I just want to, we're getting close to the end, and I want to plug away and finish the Silmarillion. Because we haven't finished a major work yet.
Right. Yeah, we've just been kind of dabbling in this and dabbling in
right.
that.
Yeah. So I want to get through the Silmarillion and then get on back to Lord of the Rings.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Do you really think we'll be able to cover all of Baron and Luthien in one episode?
We'll do our darndest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, if
maybe it'll be an extra long special, an extended edition.
There you go.
For our 50th episode.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think you should maybe compose some special haiku theme music as well.
Oh, if only I had all the time in the world to do that kind of thing. Yeah, well, hey, maybe there's a listener out there that wants to pay me a whole bunch of money to compose a special theme song for it. Oh, whatever.
Or maybe we could just get our super fans to send in some extra special haikus for our 50th episode. That would be really cool.
That sounds extra special to me.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys are up for it,
that'd be
make it
spiffy.
extra special.
Extra special.
Yes.
All right. So next time, chapter 19 of Baron and Luthien. If you want to be on, if you want your haikus to be on, send them in before Monday evening. So like Monday by 5 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, to be safe.
Sounds good.
Yes, indeedly doodly.
Alrighty. Well, thank y'all for listening.
It's my Ned Flanders just breaking out the Ned Flanders randomly there. I don't know why.
Your second unnecessary contribution to this episode.
Hey.
I think we should end this before you have a third.
Okay, fair enough. All right, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Talk at you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On the next episode, we'll continue our discussion of the Silmarillion with Chapter 19 of Baron and Luthien, what Tolkien called the Seed of Middle-earth. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.